Hello, how are you? I'm doing well, thank you. Um, I am Amanda of the MandaMadeIt podcast here. This is my little YouTube channel where I talk about my knitting, crochet, spinning, some weaving, some sewing, hand processing wool frequently. I have, you can find me on Instagram at Coastal Wool Washing. You can find me on my Etsy shop, Coastal Wool Washing. You can also check out my website, coastalwoolwashing.com, or you can email me at coastalwoolwashing@gmail.com. Those are all the places you can find me. And I also have a page on Facebook that people people really use Facebook anymore. I don't know. I mean, I use it for shopping, so yeah. Um, and yeah, I'm coming to you from Westerly, Rhode Island, where I live with my husband and my two children. Uh, I am a stay-at-home mom, and then I have my wool washing business as well. Um, and we're coming up on summer vacation soon, so stay-at-home mom status will be fully activated uh, because that's how it goes for summer break. um, all right, what do I have today? Well, I am going to share with you a finished object, a couple of whips, um, a project I am going to frog, and also I'm going to do my 6 month stash update. 2023 has been a year where I've kind of really wanted to trim down my commercial spun yarn. And my hand spun, but my hand spun is less of a worry, or not a worry, but less of a consideration right now compared to the commercial. Yeah, that'll be fun to talk about in a little bit. So I'm going to get started with finished objects, although technically it's not quite finished yet because I do have some stuff I still need to do, but the knitting is done. And what that is a oven mitt. Now, I have made one of these before, and I am going to felt it as I did with the first one. So that's why it is quite large, like this would not necessarily be helpful at this size. But I am going to felt it, which will make it you know, much more compacted and smaller. And also it's so thick because I did knit it with, oh, one of them fell. I did knit it with two of my hand spun yarns. This is a Shetland from a couple of years ago, and this is a Black Jacob also from a couple of years ago. This was spindle spun. It was actually like support spindle spun, and then this was eel wheel nano spun. So I'm just holding them together, and so it makes for a nice thick mitt that I mean, my other one is very thick as well. It's also made from hand spun, and super, like, it works great as an oven. It protects everybody that has used it, like my husband, myself. It has protected our hands from the heat of the oven when taking things out. There's no question of it failing. I had a regular, one of those just oven mitts you buy from the store, like quilted and stuff. And I mean, I've had it for years. And not too long ago, like a few weeks ago, I was using it, and I got burned through it because it's, they go through the wash, it gets old, the stuffing shifts and whatnot. And I just had to toss it because it was dangerous. And so now I've made another one. I will be posting on my Instagram the pictures of what it looks like to start and then to finish after the felting process. But, it's just like a freaking sturdy, hefty, gonna protect you thing. It's also such a great way to use up hand spun from your earlier spinning. I will say you want it if you're going to felt it, it can't be like superwash, or plant fibers, or, you know, have a bunch of add-ins that are like melty. So, but for that early hand spun that's like thick and thin, lumpy, bumpy, that you don't really know what to do with, maybe you don't have a lot of it, this is great for scrap busting, and it will hide all of those inconsistencies because you felt it. So, you know, I've also made, in the past, I've made like this, made these little felted bags for spinning. And I mean, it's a free pattern on Ravelry. Super simple. Again, hand spun, you know, comes up with all kinds of fun stuff. It just sits on my spinning wheel, holds my, you know, my oil, my orifice hook, little gauge from, I think I got this from Jillian Eve. So yeah, these are helpful little felted projects. So yeah, keep that in mind for those early hand spun attempts that you make, because they'll work great for this. So that's kind of the only finished thing I have right now. I'm in the process of just like working through bigger projects. I'm starting smaller projects and having them kind of ready to go, but you know, like, I'm not going to be able to focus a lot on knitting, and I've reached a point where I'm okay with that. But my next project that I did finally cast on for is my husband's Gansey. I am following the instructions from the Net Loft, which is out of Alaska. It's a yarn shop in Alaska. And also this book, Knitting Ganseys by Beth Brown Reinsell. You know, it breaks everything down step by step. It's a great resource. You know, I am not following a pattern. I'm basically, I created my own pattern with math, which it tells you how to do, which is helpful. So I don't know if you'll be able to see, but I have a few more rows left of the initials to do, and then I'm just straight stocking it for several inches, and then I'll be doing you know, the decorative chest part. But this is a long-term project. I mean, this is frangipani, Falmouth navy, 500-gram cones. I have 2 of these. But it is a fingering weight yarn, and it's like the ribbing is done on size 0 needles, and then the body is worked on US 1. I don't have my glasses on. US 1 2.25 millimeter needle. So this is like, it's meant to be a tightly knit garment, and that's what it is. So my husband is pleased to see me working on it, because I wanted to do this for him, but I was having a lot of mental anxiety about it, because, you know, it feels like a really big project. So I just finally had to just cast it on and start it, and it's been much better since I did that. So yeah, that's kind of like the long-term project I have, and this is the only knitting project I have on my needles right now. I do have a crochet project on the hook, and this is the start of a I think it's called Rainbow Ripple Baby Blanket. Everything, all my Ravelry pages will be linked down below, if you want any pattern info or yarn info, things like that. These yarns were actually all from my library knit group bag of, you know, yarns that people drop off. So I'm just gonna keep going until it's big enough. I have a variety of yarns to put in this. You know, she's due in a week or two, so I don't know if I'll finish it before she's due, but you know, we'll see. And it's a nice kind of easy, mindless piece to work on. I did get turned on to this by Amy of Noble Character Crafts. She's got a lot of good like blanket Afghan projects that she does. That is, she's a good resource for seeing about that. Um, so yeah, I'm doing this on a H 5mm hook. I don't use fancy hooks. I just use like the boy, yeah, whatever the metal ones like. But it's right now I've got this multicolored one. I've got black and I've got this green, and then I have a couple other skeins that I can pop in if I need to of different colors that will hopefully go fairly well. um, so yeah, that's that. Those are just the things I'm working on right now. I do have some sewing stuff, but I haven't really touched it in the past week or so. So yeah, I'm not going to get into that right now. I do have a couple of things that came in the mail recently. The first thing is my Mirkwood Arts spindle. This is Goldberry from Lord of the Rings. Goldberry and Tom Bombadil are two of my favorite characters, as well as Treebeard. Like, I mean, I know everybody's not supposed to. Like, people end up liking the main or more main characters. And I just like these little side characters, you know. I find them interesting. So, she's got the ball bearing tip. She's heavy. She's a heavy one. She has some chunky, hefty stuff here. But she's still spinning just as well and fine as any of my other things. The fiber on here is from the Fossil Fibers Bob Ross palette set. But yeah, Mirkwood Arts is on Etsy. It's like all kinds of Lord of the Rings reference spindles on there, and they're just quite lovely. I do have another one too that I had gotten before, so if you like them, check them out. The other thing I got in the mail, the new book, Embody, by Jacqueline Cieslak. I hope I said that last name right. I know many people, and probably a lot of you have at least seen this, made some of the patterns, or are interested in it. I am looking to make more of my own clothes, and I want to have something that works, that can be modified in a lot of different ways, and that tells me how to do different things. So, this has a knitted, what does it have? A sweater and a shawl knitting pattern, and then it has a top and dress knitting sewing pattern. So, but there's so many different ways of making them. So, she gives examples. She tells you how to do a capsule wardrobe, and the pictures are gorgeous in here. I'm not trying to show patterns because that's, like illegal or rude. Anyway, don't show patterns, people. That's not the right thing to do. I want to know if there's a view sheet that I can show you. There has to be. Okay. So, like, the wool fork dress and stuff, it can be made into a shirt, a tank, a tunic, a dress, long sleeve, short sleeve, sleeveless, which those are all things that I am very excited to try. Just to, I have some linen I've gotten recently that I wanted to make a tank, but I couldn't find a pattern that was really what I wanted. This one actually fits the bill. So, yeah, that will be what I am getting into soon. Now my next thing that I'm going to talk about is the failure. And it's not a failure. It's not. The pattern is fine. The yarn is fine. My combination of yarns and also my interest in making this are the yarn combination to my eye is not something I enjoy. And I was only making this pattern, one, to be part of the Tunisian crochet make along in the Jillian Eve Discord, which is now over, but also to use up these yarns, which I'm learning. Like, if I'm gonna make something for me, I don't want to make it just to use something up, because that's not successful for me. I won't enjoy it. So this is what I was working on. This is a Blue Heron Ramie metallic yarn. This is Pima Cotton from Knit Crate. I don't like the way the colors go together. I don't. I don't enjoy it. I don't want to stripe it. I don't want to do any of that. So I'm just gonna frowd this, and the yarn will go into something else, or I'll destash it. Like, so much of this yarn was purchased before I had a clear fiber identity, if that makes sense. And most of you probably know what I'm talking about, where you would buy things without really knowing what you were going to do with it, what things you even liked to work with, what things you like to make, which can be an ever-changing journey. So, I don't fault myself. I just know that those things don't go together correctly for my taste and style. And that's okay. So I'm going to frog that. Get it out of my brain. So that leads me to my stash update. So we're 6 months in. I have not been including projects that I've started. I only include projects that are finished in my yarn in and out balance. Because for exactly this reason, like, I don't want to feel like I'm going backwards if I start something and it doesn't work for me. And I don't, myself, that's how I will feel. I will feel like I am going backward, and that adds an extra layer of negativity to it that I don't want or need. So I'm not doing it. So those skeins of yarn are still considered in stash. They have been in stash. They have not been removed for me mentally. So I do use Ravelry. I do not have, it does not affect me the way that it affects others. I also do use Ravit, which is a third-party app that integrates with Ravelry, and you can use it instead of being on the Ravelry page, or website. And I do know several people who are affected by Ravelry that are able to use Ravit. The only thing is that in order to set up the Ravit app, you do need to be on the Ravelry website for less than 5 minutes, but you have to allow permissions and stuff. So if you are interested in trying it, I think it's like $5 for life on iPhone, for the Ravit app. And if you have somebody that can help you and go onto Ravelry and set it up for you, then you should be hopefully pretty golden. Like, it does, from what I understand from people who have issues with Ravelry, it is a fantastic alternative, because it's Ravelry, but in the non-brain messy way, because it's not made by Ravelry. So on Ravelry, I was able to look at how my yardage that I've used over the past 6 months. And it says I've completed 6 projects in the past 6 months, which doesn't feel like a lot, but some of them are pretty big projects. Excuse me. And it says in those 6 projects, I've used 4,575 yards, which is great. I am not actually going by yardage because I'm going by skein, and whenever I break into a skein of yarn to use, if I use at least half of it, it's considered out of stash, because then it goes in my scrap thing, because typically a half a skein of yarn isn't going to be quite enough for a lot of projects. So that's how I'm doing it. You don't have to do it. You don't have to stash down. It doesn't matter. This is what I want to do and how I am handling it and approaching it. So yeah, you know, it has been working well for me to focus on using my stash and not really bringing much in. And it has actually really allowed me to make better choices about what I want to make and with what. You know, it's made me step back and say, do I really want this thing or need this thing? And I know that our making isn't about necessity all the time. I mean, it doesn't have to be. It's a hobby. Like, I get it. But, you know, I don't need a lot, right? So, and I'm lucky for that. So, I am just being more mindful about what I'm choosing to make and how I'm going to make it. I am hoping that after this, you know, I'm really down to a smaller amount of yarn, and you'll find out after my totals. So I've used almost 5,000 yards in 6 projects that are completed. That's not including, you know, the Gansey that I'm currently working on, or the baby blanket that I'm currently working on. So I have added to my stash 19 skeins of yarn. 5 acrylic for this baby blanket because I didn't know I was going to be making it. But I didn't pay for them. So, I mean, yes, they count because they're in my stash, but it wasn't a purchase that I made. I had ordered 2 more balls of Cascade 220 to complete my blanket, my granny stripe blanket, but I still have at least one. I have one full one left and then a partial of another. And then I got 12 skeins of the sheep cheese stonewash that I was going to use for a project for my, probably for my kids, now that I think about it. So anyway, we'll see. But I brought in 19 skeins of yarn. They did all have an intended purpose. Whether or not the sheep cheese actually gets used for what the intended purpose was, we'll see. It will get used though. So those are 19 skeins in. And then I should start with this. I started with 91 intact skeins of yarn in my stash, and that includes handspun. So the handspun and commercial yarn total is 91. Commercial yarns I had 54. I don't know. I didn't give myself anyway. I have 91 skeins of yarn in my stash to start. Then in adding in these other ones, that was 110 skeins of yarn. But what I've used since January is a total of 47.75 skeins. You know, that's a good amount of yarn. You know, I completed a bulky sweater with the Lopi. I completed my granny stripes blanket, which used up a lot. That one, in and of itself, used up 8 skeins in the mini skeins alone. Like 8, the mini skeins, I had 40 mini skeins, roughly equaled 800 grams. So I consider that to be 8 skeins. You know, but really it's been, so I'm at a net, where's my calculator? Because I didn't do this before. So I'm down to 62.25 skeins in stash from 91. So, 91 plus 19 minus 47.75. And that is pretty good. It has been a test for me to avoid impulse buying yarn. By yarn, I mean like commercially spun yarn. I'm not saying that I haven't impulse bought fiber, but that's a different thing. So we're not going to deal with that right now. Okay. But if you've been stashing down and you've been tracking whatever metric you're tracking, and it's making you feel good and be more aware of what you're doing, keep on going. If it's overwhelming you and stressing you out and you're 6 months in and it's just like makes you feel bad, don't keep doing it. Give yourself a break. It'll be fine. So that's where I'm at. I completed I'm happy with my goals. I have finished projects every month. They may not always be big projects, but I have finished them. And I have also destashed several yarns. I had put yarn away that I didn't know if I wanted to keep, and I came to the realization that I didn't care to work with it again. A lot of it I didn't care, so I brought it to my knit group and it dispersed among the peoples. So that was helpful. But that I didn't actually include that in my totals or anything. So there's more that's gone, I think, than what I have marked here. But at the end of the year, I'll do a physical count of what's in my stash. Hopefully it'll be less than 10. I would like to say it would be 0, but I doubt it. For the commercially spun, it's possible, but with all the hand spun I have and I'm continuing to make. Tour de Fleece is coming up, and I've got like 5 braids that I plan on doing during Tour de Fleece. Because of course I do. But yeah. Are you destashing? Are you dashing down? Are you clearing out whips? Are you just like, I don't give a shit? Let me know. I'm curious what other people are doing. I'm curious how the momentum goes for others when it comes to these grand plans at the beginning of the year. This feels a lot more doable to me than a lot of other grand plans I've come up with in years past. And I'm enjoying it. Like, I feel good doing the things that I'm doing and being more mindful and not just making things for the sake of making them because they're the cool thing or the new thing or whatever. I'm not buying patterns crazily like, oh, I'll make this someday. I did that at first. I have plenty of patterns. I don't need to get more. But yeah, so that's what's going on these days. The shop is doing really well. I want to say thank you so much to everyone that shopped the Jillian Eve discount and my birthday discount, and who favorited the shop and items and followed me on Instagram and watched YouTube. I am so appreciative of the support that I have been feeling over the past month and a half. As I said last time, like, this is so freaking cool to be able to work with wool and talk about wool and enjoy my life with wool as a large part of it. I am just very, very grateful. And I thank each and every one of you that watch this, like, comment, subscribe, go check out my shop, visit my website, all of that. Like, that all helps. And it's not even that it helps in a monetary sense. It helps me in a mental sense, like that people are interested in what I'm doing and what I'm talking about, and that I'm providing some sort of value. And hopefully getting some people excited about washing wool. And other various very nichey things that I like to do. So anyway, I'm gonna go. I hope you'd enjoyed this little video. If you did, you can give me the little thumbs up down below. That's helpful. Leave a comment. Tell me what you're working on. Tell me how your Stashdown is going. And I will see you guys on the flip side. Bye.